إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونؤمن به ونتوكل عليه نعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهد الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله العلي العظيم الواحد الصمد العزيز الحكيم وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن سيدنا وحبيبنا وقائدنا محمدا الماحي من محى الشرك عبد الله رسوله البشير والنذير السراج المنير المنتخب في علم الغيوب والمصطفى في لوح المحفوظ وصفيه وحبيبه وخليله وأفضل المخلوقين وأكرم السابقين واللاهقين صلوات الله وسلامه عليه وعلى إخوانه النبيين وعلى آله كل وسائر الصالحين. Verily all praise and thanks is due to Allah. We praise Him, we beseech Him for help, we implore Him for forgiveness, we believe in Him, we rely upon Him. And we seek His protection from the evil of ourselves and the wickedness of our deeds. Whomsoever Allah guides, none can lead him astray. And whomsoever Allah has withheld guidance from, none can guide him aright. I bear witness that there is no deity other than Allah, the Most High, the Magnificent, the One, the Most Besought of all, the Almighty, the Most Wise. He is one and has no partner. And I bear witness that our Master, our Beloved, our Commander, Muhammad the Effacer, the one who wiped out worship of other than Allah, is the servant of Allah and His Messenger, the bearer of glad tidings and bearer of warnings, the luminous lantern, he who was elected from the unseen, he who was designated in the Lawh al-Mahfuz, which is the eternal tablet in Jannah, Allah's confidant, His beloved, and His friend, the best of creation, the most honorable of those who have passed and those who follow. Peace and blessings of Allah be upon him and upon his brotherhood of prophets, and upon his whole family and all of the righteous. قال الله سبحانه وتعالى العلي العظيم بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. وقال عبد الله بن مسعود رضي الله عنه عن هذه الآية أن يطاع فلا يعصى ويشكر فلا يكفر ويذكر فلا ينسى. Allah the Magnificent Most High has said, O believers, fear Allah as He deserves to be feared, and do not die in any state other than being Muslim. Abdullah ibn Mas'ud radiallahu anhu has said about this verse, it means being obedient without dissent, to be thankful without ingratitude, and to remember Him and not forget. وقال الله سبحانه وتعالى أيضا أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وخلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء واتقوا الله الذي تساءلون به والأرحام إن الله كان عليكم رقيبا. وقال الضحاك في قوله تبارك وتعالى واتقوا الله الذي تساءلون به يعني اتقوا الله الذي تعاقدون وتعاهدون به. وفي قوله الجليل والأرحام كما قال السلف أن كان العرب يقولون أسألك بالله وأسألك بالرحم. Allah the Most High has also said, O mankind, fear your Lord, who created you from a single soul and created from it its mate, and spread from them twain many men and women. Fear Allah by whom you demand your rights from each other and honor the wombs. For Allah is ever watchful over you. Al-Dhahhak, who is one of the primary mufassirun in Tafsir, has said regarding this ayah, fear Allah by whom you demand your rights. That this means fear Allah by whom you take your oaths and vows. And regarding the saying, and the wombs, wal-arham, it is as the Salaf has said that the Arabs used to say, we ask by Allah and we ask by the honor of the womb. وفي آية أخرى أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم ومن يطيع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما. وقال قتادة أي عدلا يعني به منطقه وفي عمله كله والسديد الصدق. And in another verse Allah says, O believers, fear Allah and speak a word straight. He will set your matters aright and forgive you of your sins. And whosoever obeys Allah and His Messenger shall find the most absolute triumph. Fawzan azima. Qatada has said, and Qatada is also one of the primary mufassirun in books of tafsir, it means to be just, meaning in one's speech and in conduct completely. And as-sadid means truth. Sadaqallahu al-ali al-azim. أما بعد عباد الله فإن أوصيكم ونفسي بتقوى الله فإن خير حديث كتاب الله وخير الهدي هدي محمد صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم وشر الأمور محدثاتها وكل محدثة بدعة وكل بدعة ضلالة وكل ضلالة في النار ثم أما بعد. As to what follows the worshippers of Allah, I advise you and myself to fear Allah. For the best speech is the book of Allah, and the best guide is the guidance conveyed by Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. And the worst of matters are the newly invented ones. For all newly invented matters are heretical innovation, and every heretical innovation leads to fire. So then, to proceed. Muslims today are in a defeated state all over the world. It is sad to say, but it's our reality. This is a low point in the history of Islam. This is why you find many Muslims today like to look back to the past. The Fath of Constantinople, the conquest of Constantinople, how the Muslims in the early days spread like wildfire, and oftentimes they didn't even have to fight a battle. When the Muslims spread across North Africa, and especially when they faced the Berbers, most of the time they didn't have to fight. Those people would accept Islam and then join. And that's how Islam spread so fast. You can't conquer the world that fast by the sword alone. The concept that Islam was spread by the sword is nonsense, simply because it is physically impossible to spread any ideology by the sword. It is impossible. The numbers just aren't there. You're going against the whole world and you're what, maybe 10,000 max. So those were our glory days, and now these are our dark days. We are defeated, and it's a time of dejection, a time of hopelessness. And it seems like all hope is lost. You know, just, I think 2 days ago, say in Germany, somebody just drove by where Muslims were gathering, doing hookah and stuff like that. I don't like hookah anyways. But there was a gathering, and he thought a lot of Muslims would be collected, and he started shooting everybody. He killed 11 people. You know, we had the attack in Christchurch in New Zealand. At the Masjid, in the Masjid, a man went in and massacred scores of Muslims. The elderly, women, children didn't make a difference. So these are the times that we are facing today. Aside from these acts of Islamophobia and violence, you have governments, Israel, China, India, everybody is attacking us. But we have to remember that even the earliest Muslims faced circumstances that made them lose hope. Even until, it says in the Qur'an that it said, حَتَّى يَقُولَ الرَّسُولُ وَالَّذِينَ آمَنُوا مَعَهُ مَتَى نَصْرُ اللَّهِ أَلَا أَنَّ نَصْرَ اللَّهِ قَرِيبٌ. That even to the point that the messenger and those who were with him said, where is the help of Allah? But verily the help of Allah was near. And the Mufassirun have said about here where it says, يَقُولَ الرَّسُولُ. Man kana Rasul, who was it? Some of the Mufassirun say it was the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. So can you imagine Ashraf al-Makhluqeen, the greatest of creation, he felt a state of hopelessness. Other Mufassirun have said that it was Yasha'a, another prophet, or another prophet from the Bani Israel. But a thabit opinion, a strong opinion amongst the Mufassirun is that this is talking about Rasul here, is the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. So imagine he and his Sahaba reached a point where they thought, Mata Nasrullah, where's the help of Allah? It's not that we lack faith. Our greatest pious predecessors before us felt this way. But what made them prevail was having that faith, trusting the promises of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we have to believe, Ala Nasrullahi Qareeb, that the help of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is near. We have to believe in His Nasr. But what is Nasr? This word is often coupled with Fath. إِذَا جَاءَ نَصْرُ اللَّهِ وَالْفَتْحِ. So they are not synonyms. Fath and Nasr are not the same thing. In short, Nasr is the means. It is the avenue which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sends by which you achieve Fath. So the end resultant victory is Fath, but you don't get that Fath until you have the Nasr of Allah. So in the end of Surah Al-Baqarah, we have, it says, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم أنت مولانا فانصرنا على القوم الكافرين. We pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this ayah. It means you are our master, so help us against the disbelieving foe. The word for help here is Nasr. And Imam Fakhruddin al-Razi has said about the meaning of فانصرنا على القوم الكافرين is that Allah's help is to send Allah's help with strength in the form of angelic resolve, بالقوة الروحانية الملكية, that the strength that an army of angels would have. This is the Nasr. Allah will give you that strength against the wrath of the physical forces of those who call besides Allah. And then Imam Abdullah bin Umar al-Baydawi, he said, فَإِنَّ مِنْ حَقَّ الْمَوْلَى أَنْ يَنْصُرْ مَوَالِيهِ عَلَى الْعَدَاءِ, that it is from the rights that the master must help his servant against his enemies. So فَانْصُرْنَا عَلَى الْقَوْمِ الْكَافِرِينَ, we are the servants, and we are asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to help us against our enemies. And it is, Allah is bound to give us that help, because that is said that it is from the rights upon the master that he has to defend his servants from their enemies and from harm. So Abu Hayyan al-Andalusi in Bahr al-Muhit fi Tafsir, he said it is important to discuss the Nasr against disbelievers, and that he let the Prophet ﷺ prevail over them by enabling him to refute them with substantial proofs and definitive arguments, وَالْحُجَجَ الْقَاطِعَةِ, that it wasn't just physical strength that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sends. You have to have the ability to defend the deen with your words, with your speech, to debate those who want to harm the Muslims. You have to, Allah will send you the ability to do that. And then Abu Hayyan continues, thereby he reduced their condition and confounded their ideology and made his transcendence over what they alleged very clear. And then a 17th century Ottoman scholar, Ismail Haqqi al-Brusawi, he's a famous Sufi, and he had compiled what is considered an esoteric tafsir, which gives an additional dimension that the other tafsir don't have. And he says that فَانْصُرْنَا عَلَى الْقَوْمِ الْكَافِرِينَ means help us against them and defend us from their harm. For it is from the rights demanded of the master that he help his servants and those who defend his commands against the enemy. So Nusra against the disbelievers is victory. وَتَكُونْ بِالْحُجَّةِ وَتَكُونْ بِالدَّفْعِ, irrefutable arguments and insurmountable defense. Meaning Allah will give you the ability to defend yourselves in a way that they cannot harm you. And He will also give you the mind and the ability of speech, like He did to Musa alayhi salam, to debate, to argue, to confront the oppressors. You know, we have the hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, أفضل الجهاد كلمة حق عند سلطان جائر. The best jihad, according to this hadith, is to speak the truth to an oppressive tyrant ruler, to speak the haqq without any fear of what will happen to you. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's Nasr gives you that ability. Fath is what results from the Nasr. So what is the relation of Fath with Nasr? As I mentioned already, when the help and the victory from Allah comes, here Nasr is followed by Fath. In the ayah, إِذَا جَاءَ النَّصْرُ نَصْرُ اللَّهِ وَالْفَتْحِ, Fath comes after the Nasr of Allah. And in the Qur'an, let me tell you, this is the speech of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The placement of every word grammatically is not haphazard. It is meant to give you true meaning of the verse. So the reason why is because Fath is the result of Nasrullah. So Imam Fakhruddin al-Razi has said regarding the difference between Nasr and Fath in the opening verse of Surah Nasr, الفرق بين النصر والفتح أن الفتح هو التحصيل المطلوب الذي كان منغلقا والنصر كالسبب للفتح فلهذا بدأ بذكر النصر وعطف عليه الفتح. So Fath is acquiring the objective that was unattainable, whereas Nasr is the reason for the Fath. For this reason, Nasr is mentioned first with Fath being adjunctive to it. عطف عليه. For those of you who are familiar with Arabic grammar, there's the rules of what is ma'atuf. So in the context of the oppression and suffering of the early Muslims, they overcame this with faith. The Nasr came from their iman in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent the Nasr, and they ended up victorious, and this was the Fath. But what's important to note, as I've mentioned according to the Mufassirun, is that our ability to overcome our enemies is not just by strength. It's not just by weapons. It's not just by overcoming their military power over us. It is also by having the ability to refute them, to debate them. Because as I said, Islam was not spread by military means. Look at the Mongol Empire. The Mongol Empire was the biggest land empire in the history of the world, and it didn't last. Genghis Khan set out to wipe out Islam, and the irony is his grandson became the greatest defender of Islam. Barqi Khan was his name. He was the grandson of Genghis Khan. He's technically a historically the savior of Mecca and Medina, because Hulagu actually had a goal after Palestine. He wanted to wipe out Mecca and Medina, completely destroy it and raise it. And the Mongols had a tactic where they divert rivers away from a place where people live, so that place would just die. It was just a scorched earth policy. And Barqi Khan, allied by Sultan Baybars in Egypt, and defeated him. And Barqi Khan and Hulagu were cousins, first cousins, both grandsons of Genghis Khan. He was instrumental in saving Mecca and Medina and overcoming the Mongols. But what if Barqi Khan never became Muslim? How did he convert to Islam? There were Buddhist monks in China who had converted to Islam, and they gave him da'wah. And he accepted Islam. When the Abbasi Khalifa was killed by Hulagu, then Barqi swore to avenge him, and he succeeded. He destroyed Hulagu. There was a battle in Georgia in the Caucasus, and Barqi annihilated Hulagu's forces, and out of depression, Hulagu simply died. So, you have the Nasr in that case, which was ultimately da'wah. That people had the nerve to preach to the grandson of Genghis Khan. Can you believe that? The greatest enemy of Islam. People went to him and said, listen, La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah. And he accepted it. This was the Nasr, and the Fath came after his conversion. So, yes, we are facing the harshest times in our history. But remember, the Mongols almost wiped out the entire invasion. So they felt the same way. So we have to realize that we Muslims, we have been this before. La taqnatu min rahmatillah. Do not despair in the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He is there. إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أما بعد. So why is this happening to us today? We had to have known this. The Prophet ﷺ said in a hadith, an authentic hadith in Imam Ahmad's Muslim, that the people will soon summon one another to attack you from every place in the same way that a pack calls around its prey. Have you ever seen hyenas? After the lion eats his food, then the hyenas come in pack. And this is the similitude that the Prophet ﷺ gave on how the nations of the world will attack us. So one of the Sahaba asked, is that because we will be small in numbers at that time? The Sahaba thought, man, if we're in that situation, there must not be many Muslims in the future. The Prophet ﷺ said, no, you will be numerous at that time, but you will be froth and debris, like that carried down by a torrent of water. And Allah will take the fear of you from the hearts of your enemies and cast al-wahn into your hearts. So the Sahaba asked, O Messenger of Allah ﷺ, what is al-wahn? He replied, love of the world and hate for death. And I think we see that this is a time of such materialism that the whole world, not just Muslims, is immersed in the dunya. Nobody wants to die. But the Sahaba were at a point where death was a very easy thing for them and they were ready for it. So we have to remove this wahn from our hearts. So the Prophet ﷺ warned us of all these things. Unfortunately, Muslims don't listen. As far as the Mongol invasion, which I mentioned previously, the Prophet ﷺ warned us about them. He said, leave that Turk. Now keep in mind, this goes into some historical anthropology. Turk in the time of the Prophet ﷺ didn't mean Turk of today. It meant Mongols, Tatar. And Turks and Mongols are cousins, they're related. But Turk, when the Prophet ﷺ said Turk, he's talking about the Mongols. And he said, leave the Turk alone, leave the Mongols alone, as long as they leave you alone. And we did not listen to that. It was the Khwarezmian Empire that attacked Genghis Khan. He sent these full ambassadors, and the Khwarezmi Shah cut their heads off and sent the heads back. That's what started it all. He probably didn't even know the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, and this is the problem. And there's other hadith, in the same hadith where the Prophet ﷺ mentions the Mongols, he also mentions the Ethiopians. Now this hasn't happened yet, but as we know, an Ethiopian army led by a man named Dhul Saleh Fatain, which literally means the man of two skinny legs, he'll probably be a really tall man, will destroy the Kaaba. And this comes much later after Isa returns, and it's towards the end of the world. But that is yet to come, and the Prophet ﷺ warned us about that. So it's important that we read the Ashrat al-Sa'ah, the signs of the hour, because it'll prepare us for everything that we're experiencing today. Now we have to understand that, yes, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will put us through times where the enemy dominates us. But please understand that their domination of us is a means for their ruin. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Qur'an, وَالَّذِينَ كَذَّبُوا بِآيَاتِنَا سَنَسْتَدْرِجُهُم مِّنْ حَيْثُ لَا يَعْلَمُونَ. And those who reject my signs, I will lure them slowly to a punishment from whence they cannot perceive. So, this talks about istidraj, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala literally lures them, continues in their blessings. Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu said, istidraj is to take gradually, steps by steps, degree by degree. هو الأخذ بالتدريج منزلة بعد منزلة. And the phrase سنستدرجهم in Arabic, it literally means we will lure them. Sufyan al-Thawri said that this means نسبغ عليهم النعم وننسيهم الشكر, that we will bestow upon them blessings and gain and profit, and we will cause them to forget where that came from, the shukr that it came from Allah. Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu said about سنستدرجهم, it means سنمكر بهم, we will plan against them. So you see that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has a plan for the enemies of the Muslims and of this deen. But we have to be conscious of the fact that it's not only the disbelievers who are mustadraj. We too can be mustadraj, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us from that. So, a Maturidi scholar from the 10th century, Professor Hakim Samarkandi, he was asked about the signs of istidraj. He replied, if you see that Allah is increasing you in blessings and gain and bounty, but you see yourself increasing in sins, then know that you are mustadraj. This is scary. Sometimes people, they're making a lot of money, life's going great, and this pulls them away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and they increase in their sins. A'udhu billah, this is istidraj. And you will be like those enemies of Allah, who Allah is also giving them plenty of victories and blessings. It's important to understand that real life's not like the movies. You have a good guy, you have a bad guy, good guy fights, bad guy loses, good guys win. That's not reality. Reality isn't that easy, and it's much more harsh. Sometimes the evil people get punished immediately for their oppression and injustice. And sometimes they never do in this world. But they will face it on the day of judgment. And on that day, they will wish they were punished in the world rather than the hell that they face. But it's upon us to struggle in the path of Allah and stand up to oppression. This is where we are weak, is standing up against the oppression. I find the support of Palestine to be very lip service in our community, unfortunately. People, they like to share stuff on social media, they like to say Palestine, Palestine, but then they don't do anything to help the people of Palestine. Same with the Rohingya. We have a masjid of Rohingya refugees here, and the masjid needs help. You know, we have to stand up to oppression and help lift each other up out of oppression. We have to be just and spreaders of justice. And the rest is up to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He will do His part as long as we do our part. And we have to believe in His promise if we are actually believers. The key word in believer is to believe. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us reflective of these things and make us understand how, by studying the Qur'an and the Sunnah, we can learn the ways to implement the means by which we get Nasr Allah and then ultimately Fath. وعلم أن الله أمركم بأمر عظيم وأمركم بالصلاة والسلام على نبيه الكريم فقال إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد. اللهم بارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. ربنا هب لنا من أزواجنا وذرياتنا قرة أعين واجعلنا للمتقين إماما. ربنا لا تؤاخذنا إن نسينا أو أخطأنا. ربنا ولا تحمل علينا إصرا كما حملته على الذين من قبلنا. ربنا ولا تحملنا ما لا طاقة لنا به. واعف عنا واغفر لنا وارحمنا أنت مولانا فانصرنا على القوم الكافرين. ربنا لا تزغ قلوبنا بعد إذ هديتنا وهب لنا من لدنك رحمة إنك أنت الوهاب. عباد الله رحمكم الله، إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون. اذكروا الله يذكركم ويشكروه على نعمه يزدكم ولذكر الله أكبر والله يعلم ما تصنعون. وأقيموا الصلاة.